Welcome back to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's episode, we have a very special guest, three-time Hockey's champion, Beanpot winner, and Northeastern goalie, Aerin Frankel. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Aerin, and how's it going?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
Thank you so much for coming on. And my first question to you is, how's your quarantine been, and what have you been doing lately to pass the time?
I'm back at school now, and we're finally on the ice and we're practicing with the whole team, which has been awesome. The first couple weeks didn't feel as normal as we were skating in kind of small groups and wearing masks and stuff, but we've slowly progressed to like a full team practice. So it's been nice to have some kind of sense of normalcy every day here at the rink, and we're working out 3 times a week and stuff. So it's been really good these past couple weeks. I'm excited.
And like you just said, you gotten back on the ice with your teammates. How has that been like, and what does your team look like? And how is this year's freshman class implementing to the new team?
It's been awesome. I think we're all pretty eager to get back after things got cut a little bit short last year, and we obviously had our eyes set on the national championship as we were set to play that game against Princeton before it all got called off. So I think being back this year, we kind of have like a hungry mentality, and every day everyone's coming to the rink and working hard. And obviously, we don't know exactly what our season's going to look like yet, but we're super excited for when we are going to get that schedule. And yeah, we have 4 new freshmen and 1 transfer from Providence, and so far they've been fitting in really well, blending in practice. And I think it's helped them a lot that we've had a lot of time to practice and we haven't really been rushed into games. I think normally we would have already started. We've had exhibition games already, and the season really usually creeps up on you pretty fast. But this year, I think they're given more time to adjust, which will help them. And they seem to be fitting in really well. So it's been a lot of fun.
Now, wearing a mask in practice, how hard is that? And has that been an adjustment for you as a goalie?
It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's mental. You kind of just got to get over it and accept the fact that you got to do it. And it's for everyone's safety. And I think the first couple of days it felt weird. It's definitely a little bit harder to catch your breath, but everyone's pretty much adjusted to it now. Like you kind of forget it's there once you get into practice, and the ones we got for our team are pretty comfortable. So it wasn't the toughest adjustment.
Now, I heard that the Big Ten is coming back in the middle of November. Have you heard from Hockey East when the season will start and what the season might look like?
Yeah, I mean, we've heard a lot of mixed things. Coach has been telling us that we're going to start at the end of November, and I know Hockey East was doing its best to get every team on board with a schedule, and I know they've been in countless meetings and stuff like that, but we haven't actually gotten anything set in stone yet. We're kind of just waiting around to see when the league is going to release something to give us a little bit more direction. But I know players are anxious. I've obviously talked to my friends from other teams in the league, and everyone wants to get back to games and get playing. But we know that safety is priority, and there's a lot of X's and O's that need to be sorted out before we can just get right to competition. So yeah, we don't exactly know yet, but we're hoping in the coming weeks to know more as November is approaching, and that's obviously when we're hoping that we're going to start.
Now, what is your goals and expectations for this season, not only for yourself, but for your team as well?
Yeah, so I think we've had a pretty special group these past couple of years. The program has grown like exponentially since I was a freshman. So I think my goals for this team are to take kind of our culture and our success from last year and just continue to build off it. I don't think anyone is satisfied at all with the way the season ended, which was out of our control. But I think, like I said earlier, like we're just hungry to come back this year, and we have Beanpot, hockey's national championship to look forward to. Hopefully all those things happen. But all we can do is control what we can control, and that's our work ethic and coming to the rink every day and working hard. But my goals are definitely to win those things that I mentioned earlier, and build off of like the amazing team culture that our past captains have instilled in this team. And ultimately, like we're knocking on the door, I think, for a national championship. And I think that last year we thought we were going to have a good chance at it. And I think that this year we're going to be even closer.
Now, being a senior on the team, what type of leadership do you want to bring?
I think I want to show the underclassmen kind of what it means to be a member of the Northeastern women's hockey team. There's a lot of qualities that we try to encompass in just our everyday life away from the rink as well, just how to be a good person and what we expect of each other. And it's a lot about accountability and respect and remaining humble. And I think that the freshmen have already bought into it, but I think that constantly when the seniors are kind of living that whole mentality, it's easy for the underclassmen to buy into it because they see the older girls doing it. And I think I just want to make sure I'm taking care of myself and I'm putting out the good example that I want others to follow. And I think our senior class in general does a really good job of carrying that down. It's kind of a trickle down like effect. If the upperclassmen are doing it, then everyone's going to buy into it. And I hope that when I leave this program, that stuff continues.
Now, I want to start off talking about before you went to Northeastern. You're from New York. How did you start playing hockey and start falling in love with the sport?
I started when I was really young and at home in Westchester, New York. I was playing with the boys. I was probably like 6 or 7 at the time. I had just started skating a few years before, and I just love being at the rink and I love playing hockey. And I wasn't a goalie right off the bat. I think it took me about a year to convince my parents to let me play goalie, but it was always just so fun for me. And I'd go on the ice and forget about things I was dealing with on every day. Kind of how my mentality was in high school. The rink was like my place to get away from stuff and just have fun with my friends. And yeah, that's ever since I was 6 or 7, hockey's been my main sport. I've played other sports a little bit, but I've really only focused on hockey and kind of ran with that.
Now, when did you start playing goalie, and what made you want to be one? Because I know for a lot of people, it's a position that not a lot of people want to play since it's so difficult.
Yeah, I think I made that transition to goalie when I was like 7 or 8, and I remember doing it because I didn't want to have to get off the ice. I wanted to play the whole game, and I was told I could be the only goalie on my travel boys team at the U10 level, and that's what I wanted to do. I was a squirt, and I wanted to play all the games and never get off the ice, and that was what I was able to do if I was going to play goalie, and I ended up liking it.
Now, who was your favorite goalie growing up, and what part of their game did you like the most?
It's funny actually. I never really watched that much hockey growing up, but everyone would always tell me, "Oh, you play like Jonathan Quick, like you're so aggressive, and you guys move so similarly." And then that's when I started watching hockey, and I love watching it nowadays. But I think that kind of that made me happy, and I started watching him a lot. I like his style, obviously, and it was amazing to watch him growing up and all those NHL goalies, just people to look at as role models.
Now, before Northeastern, you played for Shattuck St. Mary's. How did you get the opportunity to play there, and what did you want to bring to that program's rich history?
Yeah, so I obviously knew they had such a rich history of talented hockey players, and I heard about the school just through my goalie coach at home, and he knew I was looking for options. New York doesn't really have women's high school hockey, and it was either a choice for me if I wanted to play boys high school, which I thought about, or if I wanted to go to a prep school and ultimately to play at a high level and also get recruited by college coaches and end up where I would be. I made the decision I would have to go to a prep school, and the decision was easy for me after that because after looking at some of the New England schools, I realized that Shattuck really played the most games and drew the most talent, like countrywide, and I knew so many amazing players were coming out of Shattuck and committing to Division I schools. And I did know that the one caveat was that I might not get that many shots in the games and stuff because my team was going to be so strong. But ultimately, like I credit a lot of my success to going to Shattuck and playing with some of the best players every single day. I had a whole team of talented girls shooting on me every day, and I think that's what made me better was getting on the ice with those girls every day. And I think going there, I just wanted to continue that like winning culture that they had. And we were fortunate enough to win a few national championships. So that was really awesome for me. I felt like going there was definitely the right decision for me. And I was a little hesitant right off the bat just because I was leaving home at a young age, but I'm really glad I went. And it's an experience I wouldn't trade for anything.
Now, your team won 3 national titles when you were there. How did you maintain that success, and what role did you play in that?
I think I just always wanted to give my team the chance to win. That was kind of a mentality I've had and I've always had. And my coaches have instilled in me. Coach Flint here says that to me a lot. It's like did you or did you not give us a chance to win? And I think that that was how I approached a lot of games there, because sometimes the games were close. More times than not, we were beating teams by a lot. But I was giving my team the chance to win. I was doing my job, and I constantly was refocusing myself during games. Say we were up by a lot of goals, just reminding myself that ultimately I was only going to better myself if I was keeping myself at a high standard, regardless of the score of the game. Like, maybe it didn't matter if I let in a couple goals, but that wasn't what was going to make me better. It was just focusing in on the details, and yeah.
Now, which national championship do you look back on the most?
I would say our win against Elite League Black. I believe it was my junior year. I was on the girls prep team, and we were playing in Blaine, Minnesota, and we had like a penalty shot called against us that I ended up saving, and then we won. I want to say it was in overtime, and it was a really close game, and that was just such a fun win because not that our other opponents weren't competitive, but that was a really talented team, and we kind of had been rivals, I would say, the whole season. We played them a few times at the beginning of the year. We always would play Minnesota Elite League for some scrimmages, and they always were really hard to play against. We would tie them or lose a game, maybe beat them by one. Those were always really close. So that felt like a very rewarding win, and it kind of felt earned, which not that the others didn't, but that one resonates with me.
Now, how did playing at Shattuck help prepare you for college hockey?
I would definitely say, when I mentioned earlier about practicing, I was practicing with the best players. They pushed me to be better every day. Like, I couldn't really take a shot off. It wasn't like this person's coming down on me. It's gonna be easy. It was never easy. My teammates were amazing there, and they always pushed me to be better. And I hope that I started to push them to be better as well. And it was fun. Practices were always competitive, and it was just the environment was just hockey, 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 and that was something that I loved. And it's not for everyone because of that, but I think I fit in really well there because I just constantly wanted to be around the sport, and your team was like your family. And even though I was far from home, I just felt at home because I had my best friends around me, and I was doing what I loved every day.
Now, talk about your recruiting process and why you chose Northeastern over other schools.
So I was looking at a few schools, obviously. My junior year at Shattuck, I think, is when I really started. I think I was a little bit late in the recruiting process, but I looked at a few schools in the Midwest, and a few out east. And I think after talking with my family, I wanted to decide on a school that was going to be a little bit closer to home, as I had gone to Shattuck, which was pretty far away. I fled away when I wanted to come home to New York on holidays and stuff, and it just made more sense for me. I know my family was going to want to come like every weekend for games, as they do, and it felt right to come back to the East Coast for that. And so I ultimately chose Northeastern because it was obviously in Boston, which is an amazing city and I loved, but I think they believed in me, and Coach Stafford from Shattuck was helping me communicate with Northeastern, as I know they were interested in me, but they had come to see me play a lot, and I hadn't gotten a ton of action in the games, but I think they believed in me, and I liked that about them, and I knew it was a pretty vigorous school academically, and that was something that interests me as well. And I love the coaching staff when I met them, and I visited campus, and it was exciting to be in a city and close to home.
Now, what's it like to play under Coach Dave Flint, and has he taught you anything about the game that you didn't know before? And what's your interaction with him on a daily basis since you're a goalie?
Yeah, Coach Flint's amazing. I tell him all the time that, like, if I don't know what I would do without him here, he's constantly offering to do extra work with me. We're watching film every week during the season, and I feel myself getting better here. I wanted to go somewhere where I would feel like I was getting better, and I wasn't just remaining stagnant in my performance. And I think that Coach Flint challenges me, and he's always coming over to me in practice and giving me tips. And I think that's something awesome that I get with having our head coach be a goalie, a former goalie. And he's just willing to do so much for me. And I know he believes in me, and knowing that he believes in me and is willing to give me whatever I need in order to put me in the direction of my goals is it's amazing. And I feel a lot of support from him. and he really does care about his team, not just as players, but as people as well.
Now, in your first year at Northeastern, you won the Hockey's championship, beating UConn 2-1 at Matthews Arena. Talk about that game and that playoff run and what it meant to you.
It was crazy. I could never have imagined coming in as a freshman here and winning Hockey East for the first time in program history. It was kind of surreal, and I think it was just such a special moment for that team and the program in general to be hosting the Hockey East championships here and to win it for the first time. It was a crazy playoff run. We were definitely not a favorite going into playoffs. Don't remember exactly what seed we were, but we were around 500 that year. And we weren't really looked at as like a powerhouse team in our league. And I think that's what made that season so special, was that it was really our playoff run that defined us. And I remember we were watching BC play UConn before we were to play Maine that day. And before we knew that we would face UConn in the championship, and BC was totally the favorite, but they had always kind of struggled with UConn, and UConn ended up upsetting them. And I think that was kind of a defining moment for us to be like, hey, if we take care of business and we win today, then like we got a real shot tomorrow. Not that we didn't against BC, but that was a more intimidating opponent to us for sure. So I think like everyone kind of remembers like that feeling in the locker room before we played Maine, when we just knew like, let's win this game, and then if we take care of business tomorrow, like we could win.
Now, you played Colgate in the national tournament in your freshman season. Talk about your experience in the first time in the national tournament.
I was super excited. Obviously, I'd never played at that level before, and that was a really quick game. And Colgate was a very good opponent. I remember going there at the beginning of the season, and we lost like 2 games to them, like 6-0. And they were just like a very strong offensive team, and it was intimidating to play at their rink. They had a crowd, and I remember getting a lot of shots that game, and obviously being nervous but confident, just happy we made it that far. And I think that it was a new feeling for all of us to be playing in the NCAA tournament. So I don't want to say we weren't prepared, because our coaches definitely prepared us, but I think like we were all kind of nervous to the point where we never really settled down and we're like, hey, we can win this game. Whereas the following year, I think we had a little bit of a different feel against Cornell.
Now, one question I want to ask you is, during your freshman year, your team had a 5-12-1 record on the road, but then during your sophomore year, you had a 10-2-3 record on the road. What did your team work on in the offseason to improve your road record?
Yeah, that's a pretty drastic change, I would say. I didn't realize how much that improved, but I definitely would credit that to a lot of changes in our team culture. I think the leadership group my sophomore year was hands down like the best leadership I've ever had, with Brittany Bugalski as our captain. And last year, Paige Capstrom was also an outstanding leader, but I hadn't had a Brit or a Paige yet to really look up to. And I remember my sophomore year, we just approached things so differently, and started in the locker room and away from the rink. It was just like taking care of the little things and being good people. And that's something that Britt emphasized so much. And we really sat down with our strength coach and we're like, what do we want our values to be? And how are we going to be successful no matter what it's going to take? And we really honed in on those details. And I think the leadership group did an amazing job with that. And I think, as you said, it showed with our record.
Now, what's the biggest adjustment you had to make coming into college hockey, and describe your style as a goalie?
I would say my style is kind of just doing whatever I have to do to stop the puck. I'm competitive. People sometimes call me not the most technically sound goalie, which I guess I can agree with. But I compete hard, and even in practice, I want to stop every puck. And yeah, I'd say my style is a little bit aggressive, and I play the puck a lot and communicate with my D. The biggest adjustment was probably knowing like when I have to play a little bit more reserved, and that in terms of like my depth, like controlling my depth in the net and stuff. Players make decisions faster at this level, and if I wanted to be successful, I knew that I was going to have to just channel in that aggressive energy a little bit. I still am working on that, because that's something I think I need to always continue to work on. But that was probably the most noticeable thing to me, was that things I could get away with in high school, I couldn't get away with here because players are more deceptive and make decisions faster.
Now, in your sophomore year, you got to go up to Northern Ireland and play a series against Clarkson. Talk about playing over there, and what was the coolest thing you got to do up in Ireland?
I would say the coolest thing to do there was honestly the games, because the fans were incredible. I think we had like over 3,000 people at our game, and entire half of the arena was just jam packed. And those people had never seen women's hockey before, so it was kind of like historic for us to be there and play those games, because they had always had the men's tournament there, but we were the first year that women were going to go over there and play. And you could tell how much they appreciated it, and how much they were genuinely enjoying being at those games. And it was kind of the cherry on top that our games were just such intense, and they ended up being successful games for us against Clarkson. I believe we won and tied. And that was kind of like we were playing our best hockey at that time, I would say. And just the energy in the rink was amazing. That trip in itself was awesome, and I'll never forget that.
You won another hockey's championship in your sophomore year, this time against rivals Boston College in overtime. Talk about that goal that Cassidy Anderson scored, and also beating the Friars in their home ice as well during the semifinals.
Yeah, that was a crazy game. Like, Cass's goal was huge, obviously, but just that game in general, whenever we're playing BC, it's kind of just offensive rushes either way, very fast pace, not a lot of room for error. And Cass scored that goal, which was obviously huge. But we can't forget the goal BC scored on us with only a few seconds left, which was heartbreaking. But I think it was good that we got to go back to the locker room and regroup before overtime, because we kind of need the second to be like, hey, it's going to be okay. Like, we got this. Like, we all thought we had it, and we didn't think they were going to pull that off. But it was an amazing shot by Callie Flanagan and an extremely exciting game. But yeah, I'm really happy Cass was able to score that goal. Yeah.
You then went on to play Cornell in the NCAA tournament, this time at Matthews instead of on the road. What was the difference between playing a big game on the road versus at home, and how did it affect your team, especially since you lost in overtime this time?
It was super exciting to know that we were going to have the game at Matthews. That was obviously something we had started thinking about from the beginning of the year. Coach Flint's always telling us not to look too far ahead, but I think everyone kind of knew, like let's get home ice this year. We can do it. It was achievable, and we ended up getting that home ice. And Cornell is an amazing team, and I would say it was a pretty evenly matched game. And it sucks the way it had to end, to be frank, but we were missing Elena Mueller, and I think everyone was a little intimidated by that fact that we weren't going to have her, which I'm confident that we would still be able to put an amazing team effort together for that game. But having it in Matthews was definitely a more calm environment for us, and something that was familiar to us than being in someone else's rink and having everyone cheering against you. We actually had people who wanted us to win here.
Now, I want to talk about a little bit about this past year. You won your first Beanpot. Talk about winning that trophy and what it meant to you and your team, since it was Northeastern's first in a couple of years.
My class has definitely been thinking about that Beanpot for a while still. We talk about it all the time, because we just think it's funny how we didn't even win a single Beanpot game until this year. I think we didn't win a single game my freshman year, my sophomore year, and then finally junior year, we're like, we need to get rid of this curse. And that was a crazy game, tons of overtime, and Lauren McInnes finally ended it. But that was a very special win to us, because Beanpot hadn't been back to Northeastern in a while, and always playing our rival BU is fun. And it was in BU's rink, which made it even more exciting for us. Obviously, it's nice to be home, but whenever you can beat a rival in their own arena, is fun.
Now, like I mentioned earlier, your team sustained that success towards the Hockey's playoffs, where you dominated, scoring 9 goals in the finals. Talk about last year's Hockey's championship and what made it so special versus the other ones.
I think everyone was kind of surprised at that game. UConn's always a tough opponent for us, and they play hard and always have great goaltending and are good defensively. So we were surprised when we were able to get that many goals past them. But I think it was just, I don't know, we came into that game so ready, so focused, and they didn't really know what hit them. And the score didn't really reflect exactly the game, I would say, but it was super special because that was our goal from the beginning of the season. We didn't want to take any steps back. We'd won hockey since our freshman year, and that's what we have our eyes set on since the beginning of the year. We wanted to win another hockey championship because all that was going to do was put us in a better seed for the national championship title. And winning hockey obviously gives you an automatic bid to the tournament. So.
Now, you were supposed to play Princeton in the tournament this year before everything got shut down. How'd you find out, and what was your team's reaction to that news?
I believe we found out a day or two before the game was supposed to happen. I almost want to say the day before the game was supposed to happen. And we found out, I guess, officially from Coach Flint in the locker room. We had a team meeting, and he told us the news, but there had kind of been a lot of talk of it throughout the week, and kind of had like an ominous feeling. I was going to remain optimistic and hope that we were going to get to play that game, but we kept hearing, okay, no fans, just different stuff kept changing, and we didn't really feel secure in knowing that we were going to play. We were going to just focus on hockey and plan as if we were playing regardless. But I think in the back of our heads, we all kind of had that anxiety and a little bit of fear that what if the game got canceled? And obviously the moment when we found out it was official was heartbreaking. And of course I really felt for our seniors and just sadness, having to get the season taken away from us like that, out of everyone's control. But obviously something that's upsetting and disappointing.
Speaking of your teammates, talk about last year's senior class and what they meant to you, especially girls like Paige Capistrand, who was an excellent captain, and Cody Cross, someone who we had on the podcast recently. Just what did they meant to your team?
Yeah, Paige Capistrand was an amazing leader. Her and Maxie were both captains, and just amazing people, hard workers and selfless, always willing to do whatever it took to be just a great leader and a great person. I've taken a lot of things from them over the years, and I respect both of them a lot. Missing Cody this year is going to be tough. She's a great defenseman, and she works really hard. She brought a lot to the team, and we're lucky enough to have Renner back. Andrea Renner redshirted last year, so she's back with us this year, which is great because we only had those three moving on, which I wish we could have them all for another year. But I know they're doing great stuff right now, and I look forward to seeing what they're going to do in the future.
You also get to play with one of the best women's hockey players in Elena Mueller. She was a Patty Kazmaier finalist. What's it like to play with her, and what type of teammate is she like?
Elena's an amazing teammate. She again is also selfless, as I would call a lot of people on my team. She's always working her hardest. She kind of only has one speed, and that's constantly full speed. And at practice, in games, she's taking care of all the details. She plays the most complete game I've seen out of anyone. She's going just as hard in the D zone as she is in the offensive zone. And she doesn't care about how many goals she scores. She wants to celebrate her team's success. She wants to celebrate her teammates' goals. She's just as happy for someone else when they score as she is when she scores, even if not even happier. And she's obviously a crucial part of the team and what she brings. And this year, being a captain with Elena just showed even more how she's so great and how she approaches everything on a daily basis. I respect her a lot, and I've learned a lot from her.
Now, what's the biggest improvement you made to your game since your freshman year?
I would say understanding that one game doesn't define you, and the best way to approach it as a goalie is to forget about a bad game after it happens, and it's a long season, and Coach Flynn has always told us that. And you can't be at your best every single game. You got to have realistic expectations with yourself, and you obviously hope that you're going to perform at your best, but it's impossible to get a shutout every night. It's impossible to win every single game and go undefeated. So I think it's just how you cope with losses and maybe not performing to the point that you wish you did. But definitely refocusing after that. And I kind of learned freshman year that, like, hey, if I'm in a slump, how am I going to get out of it? I'm not going to feel bad for myself or change how I'm playing just because I think I need to make all these radical changes, but rather just remain calm, go to my coaches, focus on the details during practice.
You also get to play with Skylar Fontaine as well. What's she like as a defenseman and a teammate? Because we had her on the podcast as well, and she was very nice and just a great person overall.
Yes, she's definitely a great offensive addition to our defensive core. Um, she loves to rush the puck up, and we benefit a lot from her offense abilities. And she brings a lot of positive energy during the game. She's always cheering people on, and yeah, stuff like that. I mean, I've become close with her. We're in the same class, obviously, and it's really nice having her.
We're now in the segment of the podcast I call the non-hockey segment. And my first question to you is, what's your favorite thing about Boston that isn't hockey related?
I would say my favorite thing about Boston is just all the things there are to do. I was actually talking to my roommates about this the other day and how awesome it is that we're like in the heart of the city during this time. I know we obviously have to restrict some things we do and be careful due to the pandemic, but it's nice that our campus is located somewhere where, you know, yes, we're in Boston, but we just went to the apple orchard last weekend. We can go walk by the Charles River. There's hiking trails. There's so much to do. There's places to eat. Whereas if you're in a more secluded college town, there's not as much to do. And especially during this time when maybe you have more free time than you did in the past, it's nice that we have those options.
If you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
I think I'd have lunch with Drake. I really love his music, and I think he's funny. And yeah, that's my pick.
Who has the best style on the team?
Best style on the team. That's a tough one. We have a lot of people with good style, I would say, but I think I'm going to give it to Tessa Ward. She's one of my roommates, and I think she's got good style.
Now, back to some hockey questions now. What should be done to help grow women's hockey?
I would say continued support. We need people to watch the games. We need people to do stuff like this, talk to the players. All that stuff is going to grow the game. I think some people just don't even know how talented some of the female athletes are in all sports. And I think that that's sad. And I think that more coverage of our games and more interest through fans and stuff like that is just going to grow the game. Little girls are going to see us playing, and they're going to want to do that too. And the women's game definitely has taken some steps forward, but obviously has a little bit of a ways to go in order to set up a league and just grow support.
Now, what advice would you give young goalies trying to pursue Division I college hockey?
I would say control what you can control and focus on yourself. It's easy to look at other people and see what they're doing, what their save percentage is, who they're playing for, but that stuff's really not important at a young age. It's your development. And I realized that in my process of being recruited and my years at Shattuck and here, it's just you're not doing anything for yourself. You're just wasting energy. If you're looking at other people, it's draining. But focusing on yourself and basically the only thing you can do is control your own performance and your own thoughts and reach out to people. There's a lot of resources on campus here and everywhere that are in place to help you, and take advantage of those.
Now, another question I have is, what should I do as an interviewer to improve, and what can we do to make the podcast better for anyone who's coming on?
I thought this has been super fun. I liked a lot how you kind of asked questions like progressing through my career. It was jogging my memory as we went, and I think that's a really good way to organize it, because it's kind of about like a player's journey to where they are now and the success they've had. I think it was great.
Well, thank you. And do you have any shout-outs in your teammates, friends, or family members?
I'm going to reserve the shout-outs for now.
Now, thank you so much, Aerin, for coming on. I appreciate it so much. You're one of my favorite goaltenders to watch, and I wish you nothing but the best for next year. And take care, and hopefully I can come to a game soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.